So welcome one, welcome all to a VGA retro computing comparison. I've got a bunch of devices here that I've collected over the years to try to connect some of my older gear that uses VGA and output into something a little bit more practical for modern day use, which would be probably HDMI. So we're going to look at a few devices that I've used, look at some of the benefits and try and do a comparison and then show you ultimately which one I think is the best. Let's do it. So one of the simplest ways you can output VGA into your brand new LCD screen is to choose an LCD screen which has a VGA adapter on the back, and the one that I use is a ViewSonic, and it has VGA, HDMI and DisplayPort. It's only a small screen, but there are larger ones, and if you look around you can find these devices. So if you want to display VGA analog signals without any conversion or any confusion with all these additional devices, then just choose one with a VGA input and job done. One other thing about the ViewSonic that I've got is it has a sync on green capability, which is perfect for my Silicon Graphics kit. Now if your retro computer doesn't have sync on green, you don't need to worry about that. You can just choose one that has a VGA output. But I think some older game consoles, I don't want to be sure of it, but I think maybe the PlayStation 2 has a sync on green. I could be wrong. In which case you can use the ViewSonic and connect it up, and everything should be great. But yeah, simplest way for sure is just to have a VGA connection on the back of your LCD screen, and Bob's your auntie. So one down, what's next? So this next device, the INOGENI USB 3 to VGA adapter, it's a one-way adapter, you can't go the other way around obviously. It takes a standard analog VGA in, various resolutions are supported up to I think 1920 by 1280 or something like that. It's quite high. And the audio jack input, because you don't have audio with VGA unlike HDMI. And then the outputs is USB 3 to your PC, and then on your PC you'll have a capture software like OBS or something else, and then you'll record yourself doing whatever you want to do. Now this screen here is my Silicon Graphics workstation, outputting at 1024 by 768, or no, 1280 by 1024, and I've captured that native resolution, and you can see it all renders pretty well. It's certainly usable. You can see all of the icons and all of the fonts seem to be well defined. However, what I'll do now is just zoom in to 400%, and you'll start to see the kind of problems you get with VGA. So you couldn't see this when it was zoomed out, but at 400 times zoom with that 1280 by 1024 resolution, you can see how the fonts are all like broken vertically. There's some sort of sync issue, and that's something you will see through other devices. Okay, for my next example, very simple, adapter VGA to HDMI output. These are very inexpensive, you can get them on Amazon for a few dollars. You basically connect the VGA to your retro computer and it outputs HDMI using a standard HDMI cable into your LCD display, so simple enough. On the right hand side, I've got a sync on green adapter that I would use for my SGI kit. I think, like I said before, the PlayStation 2 also outputs sync on green, so you might need something like that, and you'll need a 6V DC just to power that device on. Now when they're connected in series, you can get a clear display, but in this case I've removed the sync on green adapter just to demonstrate what the screen looks like without it. So you can see at the bottom of the screen there, we've got a VGA into the HDMI adapter and then HDMI out to the screen, and you get this very clear, sharp picture, but it's got a green tint because the adapter was missing. So it works well enough, and it's a good option. Alright, this next option is a little bit more upmarket. So we have a Kramer VP434. I got this off eBay a few years ago. And in this case, you can take a couple of signals in, component or VGA. And unlike the other device, this one will do an upscale. So you can take what we've got, a 1280 by 1024 signal coming in, and we're scaling that out with 1080p. So that will be converting, upscaling from 1280 1024 to 1920 by 1080. And you can see actually, even now as it's booting up, that it seems a little bit stretched, and if you look really closely on the top right of the words, so you can see as you go from left to right that the words start to look a bit wishy-washy. Notice initializing seems fairly clear, but then guaranteed's a little bit fuzzy, and then rate seems to come back into focus, and then we go back out of focus again. And you're going to see that in more detail as we complete the boot sequence, and then I'm going to zoom into 400% just like we did for the earlier options. One other thing to notice, to mention, is that as this boots, I don't know if every device does this, some games do this, and I saw a video a couple of months ago. I can't remember who did it. I want to say Metal Jesus, but I could be wrong. And he's booting up his PC basically to play PC games. And as the PC game loads, it has a resolution choice for, say, the splash screen and the game options. And then when the game starts, it has a different resolution. And his auto scaler didn't work very well, so he was looking for like I think he used a VHS in the end, a VHS video recorder, just to take the VGA in and output it in a better way, because he found that the VHS recognized this resolution change. So yeah, long story short, if there's a resolution change, the upscaler doesn't necessarily keep up with that, and you do lose some clarity, or it might even lose the synchronization signal entirely. So I've logged in now, just like I did before. You can see it supports Sync on Green. There's no Sync on Green adapter there, so the Kramer has a built-in Sync on Green capability. I'm going to just show you the menu screen there really quickly. I've reset the output to 720p instead of 1080p. Why not? But you can see it's stretched it out there, and as part of that function, you do lose this clarity in the text. So as we zoom in, you will see that you have this clear and fuzzy situation, and that's not particularly helpful. Now the Kramer does have an auto tune function, and you can leave that on, and that's useful, especially if you've got multiple devices where you want to have different resolutions for different devices and make sure that you don't have to spend a lot of time in the menu. But if you do manually fix the resolution, then you probably will have a better experience of that. So just one thing to notice there. Right, these last two devices now, the first one being the Micomsoft SC512L, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's a PCI 1X card, and it's got drivers for Windows and I think Linux as well, but I just use it on my little Windows machine. You can input from a DVI adapter, and the DVI adapters give you HDMI and VGA in. There's also some S-Video type sockets where you can connect cables, which you can see there, which terminate into various inputs, composite, component, and so on. The quality of this product cannot be understated. This is the premium device for you. If you want to record VGA or capture any analog signal, this would be the one for you. I found it has the least problems with synchronization, frame loss, or anything like that. It's always delivered the best performance for me. You can see how clear that screen is immediately before we even do the zoom in, which we will do right now. So as before, 400% zoom, and you can see there's no fuzziness, there's no blurring whatsoever, and really this is my go-to card for VGA capture. So this is the final device that I have to show to you today. This was the OSSC external, I don't know, it's like the Frame Meister, I guess, but it takes a bunch of inputs, so you can have VGA or composite, SCART, audio, and output HDMI. It comes with like an SD card, so you can upgrade the firmware on it, which is nice. In fact, that's the first thing you must do. There are a lot of features on this card that are just not available unless you perform a firmware upgrade. One of those being Sync on Green capability. So these guys have adapted their software to do a lot of great stuff, which helps. Just like the SC512N1, this is a very high performance card. It captures VGA, or at least my VGA, very well indeed. The frame is, as you can tell, extremely clear, very low corruption. In fact, I didn't see any corruption, but there's a certain amount of fuzziness, I guess, sometimes. And again, analog is as analog does, I suppose, so you can't always get perfection. But in terms of value, the OSSC is perfect for me. I use it on my GameCube and my N64, as well as my PCs, and it's just a perfect card for portability and using it on a bunch of devices. It's plug and play. There's literally zero to do. There are options on the box. You can set your own profiles and stuff like that, but honestly, for me, straight out of the box just worked, and that's what I like most of all. So in terms of best to worst, I think the best obviously is the SC512N1. If you're capturing stuff, if you're playing stuff, then the OSSC is perfect. You know, you input your VGA and you output your HDMI, and off you go. You don't need anything else other than that one unit. The INOGENI is also a really nice little unit. Very, you know, it's solid metal, so that's a really good feature of it, I suppose. You know, you're getting a really solid piece of kit. Again, it's firmware upgradable, so as they bring out new features, they can add that in. There haven't been any firmware upgrades in quite a while, though, I will say that. And when I say quite a while, I mean probably about a year. So maybe this is something they don't sell too much of. And there are some other products in their line that are probably flying off the shelves, 4K stuff. But yeah, the INOGENI is a really great product. I think the worst of the pack, but then again, you know, bang for buck, you got to say it works, was the VGA to HDMI adapter. And again, yeah, low price, but it does what it says on the tin, takes a VGA signal and outputs HDMI. So there we go. Anyway, just a little quick rundown, quick for you to watch. It took ages for me to do this video, so I really hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask me, and if I know the answers, I'll certainly pop them in a response. But thanks very much for watching, and take care.